why The Weeknd's Kissland is a failure. Now listen, Kissland is the debut studio album by The Weeknd, Abel Baby. It was released on September 10th, 2013. Abel's first major debut under Republic Records, branch of Universal. Get the little details in there. Fresh off the success of his three mixtapes, House of Balloons, Thursday, and Echoes of Silence. Of course, there was a lot of hype. There was a lot of anticipation for his following project. And with Abel himself wanting to sign with a major that is willing to see his vision and magnify it, there was a lot of momentum heading onto this. And it's important to know that Abel decided to go with Republic instead of signing with OVO with Drake in order to really push his own career in the forefront. Excellent decision by him. We've seen what's happened with OVO over the past decade. Not the greatest track record. Now, Kissland Standard Edition having 10 tracks, Deluxe adding 2 tracks, debuted on the number 2 spot on the Billboard 200 with 95,000 copies first week. Now, on the commercial side of things, it is slightly disappointing seeing as how it went number 2 when this was an album that was highly anticipated, something that Abel wanted to do with a major to magnify his presence, get that commercial, that mainstream momentum going on. And this isn't just something that I theorize. The Weeknd himself admits Kissland's shortcoming. This was, I believe, interview with GQ. Of course, I'll put the correct source on here. The question was asked, why did Kissland fall short? Was it the label, people pushing and pulling you in different directions, or what? Abel responding, of course, oh no, the exact opposite. Kissland is not a label's type of record, especially since it's the debut album. As a debut record, there was an expectation for it. I guess for me, it was a 4th album. I feel like I said everything I needed to say on Trilogy and that sound and whatever I wanted to put out into the universe. It created a genre and I made 30 of those fucking songs. I think by the time I got to Kissland, I was definitely emotionally tapped out. I did 3 albums in 1 year. Plus I was working on Take Care 2 and that was all in 2011. So burnout was a major contributor to why The Weeknd's Kissland was a failure. I mentioned the 3 mixtapes, forgot to mention the compilation known as Trilogy, as well as throughout this time, 2011, Abel was working on Drake's Take Care. 4 tracks from Take Care were originally Abel's songs, so a good piece of his work going on to Drake, as well as helping him out with other tracks. Now, burnout, being overworked, and continuous travel. The Weeknd cites that tour played a major part of this. And I quote, then I went on tour. Jimmy Levine told me this and I'll never forget it. He goes, you never want to finish an album, let alone make an album on tour. The album, Kissland, I made it on tour. Kissland was a very tour-driven album, and you have to understand, I never left Toronto up to that point. I've been in Toronto my entire life. I've never been on a plane until I was 21 years old, end quote. And this is important. On top of burning out with the insane amount of music Abel was working on, the fact that up until that point, all the themes, the narratives, everything we've had came from Canada, came from that point of his life, was everything he's ever experienced. And Kissland being made on tour across the world, completely new, to a point where he never left Toronto, and going somewhere brand new definitely played a big impact. Now, Abel goes on to say that Kissland was in the middle ground. Quote, me not fully transitioning into full-on pop star yet, I was kind of in a middle ground, and I feel like Kissland was that. It was a very honest album. It was a lot of me being stubborn, of not letting a lot of input in. I had hit writer's block, and my friend Belly helped me out of that. It was a lot of overcompensation to really say, I don't know, this is what I have, but I don't know what this is. And it became Kissland. So Kissland not having an identity beforehand and truly shifting with Abel himself, whatever he's experiencing, post Toronto is changing, is brand new. So that's why Kissland on the commercial side of things didn't do as great, because it wasn't like it had a clear identity and sound. And this is, of course, on the commercial side of things. When it comes to quality, it's up to you to decide how you feel about Kissland. Now, Abel, end quote, staying true to who he is. It reminded me that I'll never stop taking chances. It's definitely my most honest record. It was the most naked, most vulnerable, and it is what it is. I think people were confused. It wasn't that it was bad music. I think people were just confused as much as I was confused. And I kind of like that. At least Kissland was a genuine thing. It might not have it might not have been what people expected. It might not have been great at that time, but that was who I was, and that's what all these albums are. That's who I am at that time. End quote. And that is why The Weeknd's Kissland is a failure to a certain extent in his eyes, having to deal with working nonstop throughout 2011, burning out, traveling to a whole new place in his life, a whole new chapter, and everything was new to him. So no identity with the project and constantly going through a change, not fully transitioning into a full-on pop star and still being in that middle ground throughout this process. And ultimately being his most honest record is what made Kissland the album that it is today. And with that, that's it.